Look around. Something's shifting. Quietly but unmistakably. Men are checking out, not in anger, not in bitterness, just done. No arguments, no announcements. Just silence. It's not apathy. It's awareness. A realization that hits like a cold wind. This isn't working anymore. The rules changed, the expectations grew heavier, and somewhere along the way, men stopped recognizing themselves in the lives they were told to build. They gave. For years. Decades. Generations. Gave their time, their strength, their youth. Gave stability, gave protection, gave everything they were taught made them worthy. They were told that was love. That sacrifice was noble. That being dependable was enough. But what they got in return didn't match the price. And now they're waking up with one haunting question in their heads. Was any of it ever for me? Because here's the truth. No one ever stopped to ask men what they needed. Not really. They were expected to show up, shut up, and provide. Be strong but not stoic. Express themselves but never be weak. Lead but don't control. Protect but don't expect gratitude. Want intimacy but never need it. Be available emotionally, financially, physically, on demand. And in return? Conditional affection. Disrespect packaged as empowerment. Loyalty that lasts only as long as the benefits flow. So now men are walking away. From relationships, from expectations, from roles they didn't choose. They're not marching or making speeches. They're disappearing from the dating market, from marriages, from spaces that once demanded their full presence without offering anything back. Not because they're cowards. Not because they hate women. But because they've finally seen behind the curtain, and what they saw made them pause. The system relied on men never waking up. On them always chasing. Always fixing. Always apologizing for being too much or not enough. But now they're realizing they were only valued for what they could give. Not who they are. Not what they feel. And certainly not what they dream about when the world stops demanding. This isn't a rebellion. It's a refusal. A quiet one. A final one. The same men who used to bend over backwards just to be chosen now realize they never had to chase to begin with. That love, real love, doesn't come with an invoice or an expiration date. That peace, real peace, isn't found in the arms of someone who sees you as replaceable. It's a hard truth. But clarity always is. Men aren't just leaving partners. They're leaving roles that hollowed them out. They're shedding expectations like dead skin. And for the first time they're choosing themselves. Not out of selfishness. Out of survival. Because they finally understand, the world doesn't change until they change. And that change begins the moment a man stops proving his worth to people who never saw it in the first place. The Great Awakening isn't loud. It's quiet. But it's everywhere. And once a man sees the truth, he can't unsee it. He's not shouting. He's not lashing out. He's just tired. The kind of tired that settles deep in the bones and doesn't leave. Not just physically drained, spiritually worn down. Worn from years of showing up and getting nothing back but silence or scorn. He gave love, patience, effort. He stayed through the storms, absorbed the moods, walked on eggshells. And it still wasn't enough. He's tired of being a provider who's treated like a placeholder. Tired of trying to meet standards that shift by the day. Tired of pouring into a well that never fills, only leaks. He's tired of love feeling like a performance, where one mistake erases 100 sacrifices. He's tired of being told he's the problem when all he ever did was try. It's not weakness. It's the end of pretending. The end of carrying burdens no one ever acknowledges. The end of being the emotional punching bag because he's supposed to be strong. He's not afraid of struggle, he's lived in it. But he's done suffering in silence while being blamed for things he didn't break. He's had enough of being useful, not valued. Of being expected to fix everything but never allowed to fall apart. When he cries, it's dismissed. When he speaks up, it's twisted. When he withdraws, he's heartless. He's navigating a world that demands his vulnerability, only to weaponize it the moment he opens up. And still he stayed. Longer than he should have. Because he believed in loyalty. Because he thought love meant endurance. Because he was taught to be dependable, not happy. But even the strongest man breaks when he's constantly overlooked. Eventually the weight becomes too much. Not from one blow, but from 1,000 tiny cuts that no one saw. Or worse, ignored. He's not looking for perfect. He never was. He just wanted partnership, effort, gratitude, respect. Instead, he got tested, doubted, disrespected, and told it was all in his head. He gave his time and got attitude, gave patience and got complaints, gave stability and got taken for granted. There comes a moment when even the most loyal man looks around and asks, "Why am I still here?" That moment is here. It's not rage. It's resolve. The slow, steady realization that peace matters more than proving himself. That being alone isn't scary when chaos is the alternative. That his sanity is worth protecting. That his presence is a privilege, not a given. He's no longer chasing. No longer explaining. No longer apologizing for not being perfect. He's not asking for love that comes with scorekeeping or ultimatums. He's walking toward a life where he's appreciated, or walking alone. And either way, he's finally okay with it. This isn't burnout. This is a boundary. The line in the sand that says, no more, not because he hates love, but because he finally loves himself enough to stop bleeding for people who never bring bandages. He thought he was doing everything right. Be stable. Be kind. Be there. He played by the rules. Showed up. Provided. Stayed loyal. He thought that would be enough. It wasn't. Every move he made felt like walking through a minefield. One wrong word, one off day, and the love was gone. Not challenged. Gone. He started noticing the patterns. The more he gave, the less he got. The harder he tried, the colder she became. When he set boundaries, he was controlling. When he opened up, he was weak. If he stayed silent, he didn't care enough. No matter what he did, he was wrong. He wasn't building a relationship. He was trying to pass a test with no right answers. He watched friends fall too. Strong men, loyal men. Torn apart in breakups and courtrooms. Lost their homes, their kids, their peace. They gave everything. Got nothing back but lawyers and lies. Some never recovered. Others barely made it out. He saw the warning signs and stopped pretending they weren't there. The message was clear. His love was disposable. His effort was expected. His pain was irrelevant. She could leave on a whim and the world would clap. He could stay and suffer and no one would blink. And when he finally broke, they'd say he should have tried harder. He realized he was stuck in a system that doesn't want him to win. That praises her for walking away but shames him for standing up. That demands his protection but questions his authority. That celebrates her independence and condemns his distance. He couldn't win, because the game was rigged from the start. So he stopped playing. No announcement. No dramatic exit. Just a quiet decision. I'm done giving to people who only take, because love shouldn't feel like punishment. And commitment shouldn't feel like a sentence. He walked away, not to prove a point but to protect his soul. Because nothing's more dangerous than a man who realizes his peace is worth more than approval. He didn't lose. He learned. Learned that manipulation can wear a smile. Learned that disrespect often comes disguised as standards. Learned that silence can speak louder than any scream. This wasn't quitting. This was clarity. He's not bitter, he's awake. Not jaded, just done being naive. He finally sees the trap for what it is. A cycle built on guilt, shame, and control. And the only way out is to stop dancing for love that comes with strings. They told him to man up. So he did. He walked away from what was killing him slowly. He chose peace over chaos. Purpose over performance. Growth over games. And once he tasted freedom, he knew he'd never go back. He's not afraid of love. He's just no longer willing to beg for it. If it costs his dignity, it's too expensive. If it drains his soul, it's not worth it. If it requires losing himself, it was never love to begin with. She thought he'd fall apart without her. Thought he'd spiral, come crawling back, beg for another chance. But when he walked, something unexpected happened. He didn't crumble, he breathed. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't tense. No more drama. No more confusion. Just quiet. And in that quiet, he found something she never gave him: peace. He wasn't running from love. He was escaping the noise, the constant pressure, the emotional swings, the power games. He stepped away and realized how much lighter life felt without the weight of her moods, without the guessing games, without the silent punishments and moving targets. He started waking up without anxiety. No text to decode. No accusations waiting. No fake emergencies designed to pull him off course. He started sleeping better, eating better, thinking clearer. The fog lifted, and what was left was a man finally in control of his own time, his own energy, his own space. And that space, he filled it with things that actually built him. He went back to the gym. Got stronger. Not to impress, just to feel good in his own skin. He dove into his work, not as a distraction but as a mission. He started creating, building, growing. Every hour he once spent fixing someone else's chaos, he now used to build his own kingdom. His phone got quieter. And he liked it. No more pointless arguments. No more guilt trips. No more emotional blackmail dressed as communication. The silence wasn't empty, it was healing. Every day without her drama felt like taking a brick off his chest. He didn't miss her voice, he missed his own peace. He started thinking differently, acting differently. His shoulders relaxed. His thoughts sharpened. His goals came back into focus. All the noise that once distracted him started to look ridiculous from a distance. He couldn't believe how long he tolerated it. How long he believed that love was supposed to hurt. That struggle meant passion. That instability was normal. He finally understood that love should feel safe, not stressful. That a partner should bring calm, not chaos. That relationships are supposed to recharge you, not drain you dry. And the best part? He realized he never needed anyone to give him that peace. It was there all along, waiting for him to stop giving it away. The peace became addictive. Better than attention. Better than sex. Better than temporary highs. It was stable, grounded, real. And once he tasted that stillness, he knew he'd never trade it again. Not for drama. Not for beauty. Not for any short-term hit of validation. She expected him to chase. But he chose stillness. She expected him to suffer. But he found strength. She thought he'd regret leaving. But he regrets staying as long as he did. What he found in her absence wasn't loneliness, it was liberation. And now that he's free, he's not looking back. He lost himself trying to be everything for everyone. The strong one. The provider. The fixer. The rock. Somewhere along the way, he forgot who he was without the expectations. Without the roles. Without the constant demands to be more, give more, tolerate more. But when it all fell apart, something surprising happened. He started to rebuild. Not the old version of himself, but someone entirely new. The silence gave him space to reflect. No more noise. No more distractions. Just him, face to face with the man he'd ignored for years. And in that stillness he asked questions he'd never dared to ask. What do I want? Who am I outside of a relationship? What would my life look like if I designed it for me, not for someone else? He stopped living for approval. Stopped bending to please people who never bent for him. Started saying no. Started protecting his time. His energy. His heart. He wasn't angry, just done performing. He didn't want applause. He wanted authenticity. He didn't need to be saved. He needed to stop saving everyone else at the cost of his own soul. The change was subtle at first. He cut ties with people who only called when they needed something. He stopped chasing friendships that felt one-sided. He put his focus where it belonged, on his own mission. His goals. His body. His mind. He poured energy into becoming a man he respected when no one was watching. He found brotherhood. Real ones. Men who didn't compete but elevated each other. Conversations that didn't revolve around women or status, but around legacy, purpose, and growth. He realized he wasn't alone in his exhaustion. There were others, quiet warriors, on the same path of reclaiming themselves from the wreckage. Opportunities started showing up. Doors he never noticed before were now wide open. Business ideas. Creative sparks. Financial moves. With no more energy wasted on emotional roller coasters, he had clarity. He saw what mattered and cut the rest. What once felt like sacrifice now felt like alignment. This was his life on his terms. He laughed more. Slept better. Moved with purpose. Not for likes. Not for approval. Just for the joy of becoming. He realized peace wasn't boring, it was powerful. Stability wasn't weakness, it was the foundation. And self-respect? That was the prize. Not her attention. Not her validation. Not her return. This wasn't healing just to find someone new. This was healing to never lose himself again. He finally understood that real confidence comes from within. That his worth isn't tied to what he provides, but who he is when no one's looking. He's not the same man who walked away. He's better, wiser, sharper. He's not bitter. He's grateful. Because losing what wasn't for him cleared the way for everything that was. He didn't just survive the fall, he rebuilt higher. And this time he's standing tall not for them but for himself. They didn't notice at first. The messages slowed down. The calls stopped. The energy shifted. No fights. No warnings. Just absence. Subtle but heavy. A silence too thick to ignore. That's when the panic started, not from the loud ones but from the ones who always assumed he'd be there. The world didn't prepare them for this. For men going quiet. For men choosing themselves. For men refusing to play the fool in someone else's game. They were used to him chasing, fixing, apologizing. They never imagined a version of him that could just walk. No closure, no breakdown, no begging. Just done. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about punishment. It was about self-preservation. Men aren't disappearing because they hate women. They're pulling back because the price of staying is their sanity. They finally realized love without respect isn't love at all. It's exploitation in disguise. Now the system is glitching. The rules don't work anymore. Shame tactics fall flat. Manipulation hits a wall. The usual tricks, tears, guilt, insults, don't land like they used to. Because a man who's found peace can't be shaken by noise. He's not reactive. He's not reachable in the way he once was. Suddenly he's unavailable. Not cold, just clear. Uninterested in chaos. Unwilling to negotiate his worth. And the silence he leaves behind is deafening. Not just to the woman who misplayed her hand, but to a culture that banked on his obedience. His retreat isn't weakness, it's the ultimate power move. They called it toxic when he led. Unavailable when he focused. Fragile when he opened up. Now he's indifferent and it's the one thing they can't control. He's no longer proving anything. No longer jumping through hoops. No longer tolerating mediocrity disguised as independence. And it's shaking everything. Because when men stop trying, the entire dynamic shifts. When they stop showing up blindly, stop tolerating disrespect, stop chasing temporary affection, it forces everyone to confront what's really been going on. That love was never mutual, it was one-sided labor wrapped in empty promises. Now the same voices that screamed, "Do better," are whispering, "Where did they go?" The same women who dismissed good men are suddenly realizing they're gone. Not hiding. Not bitter. Just elsewhere. Living. Growing. Building. Alone if necessary, but never desperate again. This new silence is terrifying because it says what words never could. He's not coming back. Not to old habits. Not to dead relationships. Not to cycles that left him hollow. He's not angry. He's evolved. And in this evolution there's no room for guilt. No space for manipulation. No patience for games. He's done explaining himself. Done seeking validation. Done hoping people will change. He changed instead. That's the panic they never saw coming. Not a fight. Not a speech. Just a door quietly closing. And once it shuts, he won't be on the other side waiting. He'll be too busy becoming. He used to react. Used to argue. Used to explain himself over and over, hoping to be understood. But now, he doesn't flinch. Doesn't chase. Doesn't engage. That calm silence, the one she used to mistake for weakness, is now his shield. He doesn't need to fight. He just walks. And that's what stings the most. She presses buttons that used to trigger him. Nothing happens. She tests boundaries he used to bend. They hold firm. She waits for the old version of him, the one who would compromise, overextend, and plead. He's gone. Replaced by a man who owes no explanations and seeks no permission. His superpower isn't his presence, it's his absence. Not physical but emotional, mental, energetic. He's unplugged from the drama, disconnected from the push and pull, immune to the tension. And she can feel it. That space she once filled with control is now empty, and she can't stand it. He's not cold. He's just detached. His peace isn't performative, it's earned. Built brick by brick through pain, reflection, and hard boundaries. He learned that every reaction costs energy. Every argument drags him back into chaos. And he's too focused now to waste time proving points to someone who isn't listening. She calls him distant. He calls it freedom. She calls him uncaring. He calls it clarity. The truth? He cares deeply, just not about games anymore. Not about false intimacy. Not about the endless loop of guilt and reward. He's seen it all before and it no longer moves him. His indifference isn't lack of emotion. It's control. Control over his time, his thoughts, his path. He doesn't need to be understood. He doesn't crave being chosen. He knows what he brings to the table and he's fine eating alone. That energy? Unshakable. That presence? Rare. That discipline? Unmatched. She tries to provoke a spark. A crack. A moment of weakness. But he's too grounded now. Centered. He's not angry. He's aware. He's not bitter. He's balanced. Her words bounce off. Her silence no longer threatens. Her attention doesn't validate. That unbothered energy speaks louder than any speech. It says, I've already let go. It says, this chapter is closed, not with resentment but with resolve. The kind that can't be faked or forced. He's no longer in the emotional arena. He's watching from the stands, sipping peace. And what scares her most isn't losing him. It's realizing he didn't lose himself. She expected damage. What she got was elevation. A man who took the pain and built a life around purpose. A man who walks with dignity, not desperation. There's no revenge in his tone. No pettiness in his silence. Just a quiet refusal to play the same old game. Because the moment he stopped caring what she thought, he became untouchable. And now that he knows his worth, no one can ever weaponize his heart again. He didn't leave to hurt her. He left to heal himself. Not out of spite, but out of necessity. Not because he gave up on love, but because he finally stopped settling for less than it. He walked away without drama, without a scene, without looking back. Because when a man reaches that level of clarity, he doesn't need to explain. He just moves. What he found on the other side wasn't loneliness, it was freedom. Not empty space, but room to grow. He didn't lose anything that mattered. What he lost was the noise, the pressure, the pretending. And in that space he began building, not out of pain but out of vision. Now every step he takes is intentional. He's not wandering. He's working. Crafting something lasting. A life defined by discipline, direction, and deep-rooted peace. The kind of life no one can take away because it wasn't handed to him, it was earned. Brick by brick. Scar by scar. There's no resentment in him. Just wisdom. Lessons etched into his soul from everything he endured. He's not jaded. He's just no longer willing to play small to make others comfortable. The version of him that stayed silent, that tolerated disrespect, that questioned his own value, that man's gone. He's not waiting for an apology. Not hoping for closure. He doesn't need recognition. His reward is the man he sees in the mirror. Steady. Focused. Whole. He's walking with a different posture now. Not arrogance but self-respect. Not anger but assurance. She may never understand. That's okay. It was never about being understood. It was about being real. Honest. Whole. He finally realized his time is precious. His energy sacred. His peace non-negotiable. And anything that costs those things is too expensive, no matter how beautiful it looks. He's not chasing a fairy tale anymore. He's building a legacy. Something solid. Something future-proof. He's focused on impact now, not attention. On purpose, not approval. On growth, not games. Love still matters, but only if it meets him where he is. With truth. With consistency. With depth. The man he is now. He doesn't fear being alone. He fears wasting time. He doesn't need to be needed, he needs to be respected. He doesn't measure his worth by who stays, but by who adds peace to his life. And if no one comes along, he's still good. More than good, he's unstoppable. This isn't the end of his story. It's the first chapter he's writing for himself. No editors. No rewrites. Just truth. Raw and real. He didn't walk away from love. He walked away from the illusion of it. And in doing so he found something far greater, himself. That's the real win. Not revenge. Not being missed. Not making her regret it. The win is becoming the man he was always meant to be. The win is living a life on his terms. The win is never settling again, for anyone or anything.